You're listening to Pardon the Disruption with your host, Tom Young.
Hey, everybody. Hey, welcome to the show. This is Tom Young. Let's go around the room.
This is Bart Gallo.
This is TJ Young.
And this is Rohan Kapoor.
Hey, thanks, guys. Hey, today we're going to do a little bit of an update on the world of VR. We had experimented. We bought a HTC Vive, and we set that up, and we played around with it. And we had done some work with the HTC Vive with one of our clients, setting up some virtual environments for hospital operating rooms and to show equipment to executives without having to make a site visit. And then recently, several of us bought the Oculus Quest, which is, probably the next generation beyond the original HTC Vive, which is a corded VR headset. So the HTC Vive is a headset you wear over your eyes, and again, VR is a virtual reality separated from other things like augmented reality where you do overlay. So Google Glass would have been augmented reality.
Pokemon Go.
There's things like that. There's some I think actually I'm a bigger fan of augmented reality, but it's not there. The technology's not there yet. So we talked about Magic Leap and some other shows. That technology is really hard. It's not there yet. But anyway, so we played around with the Oculus Quest, which is now cordless, and I have one here on the desk here, and it's got gyroscopes in it. It's a little mini computer, because unlike the HTC Vive that requires a laptop, this does not. This comes right out of the box. The user experience is pretty good. It's got 4 wide-angle camera sensors here.
Right, which is also external on the Vive as well, the room sensors.
Yeah. The room sensors, you got to set those up on tripods or something like that. So it's a little bit more of a complicated setup. But I think in the course of maybe 2 years, the technology has now moved to something much more user-friendly, easy to use. This is all you get. You get a headset and 2 of these. Mm-hmm. This is rechargeable using USB-C, and this uses AAA batteries. And I'm still at like 92%, playing with this for a week. This lasts about 2 or 3 hours. But anyway, we've all played with this. What are your guys' thoughts on this Oculus Quest?
Well, I think the experience of comparing the Quest to the Vive reminded me of that video we've shared a few times on the podcast where you show an office from the 1980s versus today, where you see the printer and the index cards and the Rolodex all become virtualized and pulled into the laptop. And we kind of saw like a much faster virtualization trend for VR, where 2 years ago you needed, for something like the HTC Vive or a tethered headset of another brand, you needed a laptop, external sensors to map the room, all of this stuff outside of the headset. And within 2 years, we're already at all of the compute power and room mapping is in the headset, and the controllers and everything's wireless, and you can just throw it in a backpack and go with no laptop.
Yeah. It was a much better experience. It was kind of a hassle. We spent almost an entire day setting up the Vive.
Right, and that was just the hardware side, not even the comparison of the software experience, which was also
Facebook and Apple do it really well. It's the whole, especially not just the experience doing it, but unboxing and setting it up. You take it out, it's charged enough that it works. It's not fully charged because they're cheap.
Yeah,
and if they're running a business, but you take it out, all you need is a Wi-Fi connection, and you're good to go.
Yeah,
that's it. That's literally it, and it walks you through. And you're up and running in 10 minutes.
It felt very similar to the early days of the iPod, where you were comparing the you even remember that word?
What did you just say?
Comparing like using the iPod to like an MP3 player of some generic brand.
What are you saying?
Like the type that wouldn't have iTunes or any sort of platform, and you had to drag and drop songs into a folder.
It's a folder.
It's very different. So I have both set up. I think I like some of the apps on the HTC Vive, specifically the Google Earth, where you can fly around in 3D. That is really cool.
Which is not on the Oculus?
It's not on the Oculus right now. But that's
missing.
That's a question of when, not if, because these platforms are very similar to the gaming platforms. So like, Sony PlayStation versus Xbox versus, some of the older platforms like Sega and others, where some of the games were resident only on one platform, but the best games migrate to all platforms. I think there's a lot of focus right now on the platforms, but I think what's really going to make this thing take off is the applications and the experiences and things like that.
The content,
yeah. I sat one of the ones that I thought was pretty interesting. I hit the Netflix app and the Oculus, and you're transported into this awesome like remote living room, and it's expansive living room. It might be 500-600 square feet. It's really big, and so you're in a geodesic dome. It's got these views of the mountains. You're sitting on a couch. There's a fireplace there, and about a 10-foot screen in front of you. And it's not quite HD, but it's damn close to it. It's pretty good resolution, good enough. Let's just say it's good enough. And then you hit play, the lights dim down. You can still see the room, but it's like a virtual experience. And Rohan, you and I were talking about, that versus a real. So I have a real home theater here in the basement. And I think if you add up all the costs of setting up a real nice home theater of any kind of equivalence, you're approaching at least $5,000 for the equipment and furniture, and then the cost of the real estate that goes with that.
Yeah.
Versus the HTC Vive gives you something kind of similar, certainly not as good, but for $500.
Yeah.
And at first glance, you think, oh, why would you watch Netflix on your couch when you could just take it off and like sit on your couch and watch on your actual TV? But you don't think about things in the virtual sense. Like the screen is software definable.
Yeah.
You can just make an 80-foot screen if you want.
And the virtual living room is much cleaner than some people's living rooms. So I appreciate the nice minimalist apartment they put you in.
Your girlfriend's not there, and it's
but that is
my what?
what? What is this thing?
But that is the other thing as well, is the kind of social aspect, which is pretty important for a lot of people in terms of the experience. And I know you guys were playing around on the virtual chat room where you can kind of go in, but trying to I think it's still very like siloed and individual, which is great for certain circumstances. But
it is. I think they're getting at some of the social side of it, and that's just a question of the applications, and I think some of the creativity that's required. They have an application called Oculus Venues where they will put in a VR camera at a live event, like a comedy show or a concert, and you can log in, and it's live, and you're sitting there, and you're in the comedy club in New York. So would it be better to be there but if you're not in New York, you can't go. So at least now you're there. And TJ, you tried it, and there was other avatars sitting there. You didn't know these people, but they were there, and you could talk to them.
Yeah, I saw Tenacious D. If you're not familiar, it's a two-man band kind of run by Jack Black and his buddy. I forgot the other guy's name. Video of the actual stage was pretty poor. I mean, you're kind of relying on the least common denominator for the internet connection, but you're sitting in kind of a virtual audience in a little chair, and you can see the avatars sitting around you. And you can only talk to and hear the avatars in like a 9-person grid. The people in front of you, to the sides, and diagonal. And you can see other avatars beyond that, but you can't hear them.
Is the sound on a gradient when you can walk away from people and you hear them taper off?
So it's kind of a concentric circle. So the people slightly far away are a little bit quieter, and then it goes off.
Okay.
And if people are annoying, you could just teleport away. I want to go to the left side of the stage.
Looks a little more chill over there.
Yeah, I didn't say a word.
So football season's coming up. Right, and it's probably not ready for this season, but let's just assume that this 2020 football season, 1 year away, which is a lifetime away in the world of technology. But in the 2020 football season, they're going to have the NFL app on one of these platforms. And you're going to be able to go in and watch the game as if you're sitting on the 50-yard line with your friends, and your friends are going to do the same thing. And you're going to be able to talk to your friends. The headsets allow you to still drink a beer in your living room if you want. You can talk, you can chat, you can take the headset off and walk away, go to the bathroom, come back, put it back on. But
you don't have to stay on the 50-yard line. if the ball's down by the 10, exactly. They're ready to go for the touchdown. You're down by the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
Right. You can be in the camera that flies around on the above the field.
That's the thing, because if you watch an NFL game, you might take it for granted, or even NBA, any major sport. It's a huge production. The way they cut, when someone is going to come on and commentate. It's almost like a movie that they film on the spot and edit on the spot live.
Yeah.
Right? It's very, very well done. When they're going to go close up on Ben Roethlisberger for his reaction when he drops a pass, showing the receiver back to the lineup, it's all produced. And you think it's just kind of like raw and just given to you and there's no effort, as opposed to you kind of taking control of that. Like, all right, I'm going to be above the above the field, or I'm going to sit on the 50-yard line. It's going to be it's going to feel not as spoon-fed to you.
So I have a friend. She is does a fantasy football. I know you guys do it as well. She's going to a fantasy football draft party tonight. Right? It's a big social thing.
Yes.
Yeah, food. There's a drink.
Drinks.
But we did one last year, our team, and but it was a virtual party. We all logged in, and we did it online together. We were all in different places. The draft was set for a certain time, and we just did it. Now imagine doing a party like this in a virtual reality, where you're sitting there. You can actually talk to the people. It's an immersive experience. You can see all the stats. You can pull up your stuff. Look at that. Can't believe that. All these different things. But then put it into the game mode where you can actually watch the game. So I think the social is coming. I think it's going to be the thing that's going to make this move to the next level. Right now we have what I'll call early adopters probably buying this.
Yeah.
There's probably a couple million. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but I think for this to really go to the next level, they're going to need 25 million to be sold. But I think right now they're a little over 1 million. Did they say Oculus sold 1 million?
Yeah. They said
But
they
they have-
forecasted 2019 for the whole of 2019, 1 million.
Yeah, but they have how many different kinds of Oculus are there? There's 3 or 4 different kinds, right?
It's like I think there's
Yeah.
2 Rifts, and the Quest is the one without the tether.
And then there's the Go, right? It's kind of the most lightweight one, I think.
Yeah. And then
It's,
HTC's coming out with the, I think the model's called Better Than Oculus. Right? It's the next, they're going to keep leapfrogging each other. They're going to go to the next thing.
Oh, there you go. 2 million estimate.
So
this
if-
is the Oculus Go, not the Quest.
okay.
I'm not sure.
What's the, Bart, go to the one that's the new HTC, like we were just looking at.
Oh, yeah.
It was some crazy price point.
So do you think the social piece and just the content piece is going to be, when that gets to a good stage, that's going to commercialize the product?
Again, the other show that we have that I do with Kieran around Experience This, we think of the deployment of technology in our lives as being highly disruptive. And then I would say that disruption is viewed much more negative than it is positive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has a lot to do with how you think about how you're going to allow the technology to affect your life and how you're going to use it. So I want to think of the positive ways these technologies can enhance our lives versus turning us into isolated zombies sitting in a basement, doing things by ourselves and not interacting with other people.
Yeah.
So if you go to just pick any nursing home, if you have an elderly relative or friend and you visited them, those are very lonely places, right?
Bingo.
Right. You just think of the ability to have the people put this on the elderly folks and allow them to just experience things, recall memories. You think there's a lot of content out there that's in the old platforms where the software is going to allow itself to migrate to these new platforms without human intervention.
Yeah, be able to teleport to a slot machine in Vegas.
Well, but yeah. Well, I'm thinking more like taking all of your digital photos and having them curated and put into an experience where you can sit there and watch and enjoy it.
Yeah.
The ability to just interact socially with people. We didn't get this set up for this podcast. We'll do one of our future podcasts. We'll do it in VR. But they have these cameras now for about $400. They take 4K video in 360. And it's small. It's the size of maybe a little bit big. It's a little more oblong than a cigarette pack, but it's not much bigger than a cigarette pack. And it takes awesome videos. And you can now imagine sticking that on a small portable tripod on a restaurant table, and a person who couldn't join you, say a relative who's out of town, or Rowan, you have relatives in UK.
Yeah.
They can't be with you somewhere. Maybe they can come and join you for hanging out at a pub.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you can visit them.
Yeah.
So it's not a question of I'm going to do that instead of something. It's you're going to do it instead of not doing anything with them,
Yeah.
right? When you go visit them, you're going to hang out. But what about when you're not hanging out? Could your experiences be more enhanced?
Yeah. And there's actually there's a company called Tailspin that is using VR to train their employees on how to deal with kind of interpersonal issues. So, for example, firing someone, you put on a VR headset and you have this kind of avatar that sits in front of you that's pretty lifelike, and you go through this description, and as they start to kind of have AI on the back end, and it starts to get more real with the interactions that you have with that person get more realistic, that's going to help employees and companies deal with all kinds of situations in the real world, but using a virtual technology.
Yeah. So we think of like, we did the show with Rob High from IBM, Edge Computing. This Oculus is edge computing, right? Because the platform sits on your head. A lot of the user experience is rendered right from here. But imagine you're getting into these hybrid architectures where, we were talking before. I think we were going to show a quick video of how this actually maps your room. Because what's interesting is when you turn it on, you see through the sensors. The first thing you do is see through the sensors, and you get a virtual can of spray paint, and you spray paint out a clear area where you're going to work and play the game. You want something that's going to be free because you move around. Because you have these, I don't know what you call them, nunchucks or whatever they're called. Controllers. Nunchucks. I was doing the...
Try again.
No,
Fruit Ninja.
I did Fruit Ninja. These were sabers.
Wands.
But you hold these things, and you're going to move your arms around. You're going to do wild things. But anyway, so you think through. So you spray paint this area, and it creates like a virtual room.
Yeah.
And when you step out, you see the world through the sensors, and then when you step in, you're immersed in this new world.
Right. And it's as easy as using a spray paint can, which, to tie back to the comparison to the HTC Vive, the same process of mapping the room took two external sensors on tripods, and you have to space them out and set them up. And if you want to bring the Vive somewhere, you have to carry all of that stuff. And this is all happening in the headset with the 4-camera system on the Quest.
And it remembers prior rooms.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up to my bedroom because I wanted to, I Chromecast on the TV, and I wanted to Chromecast because you can simulcast out on, I couldn't figure it out how to work it. But anyway, so I went back downstairs. I thought I'd have to reset up. No, I walked right into a new virtual room.
Zuckerberg's not going to delete any data about your house. They want to know where your TV is, or what kind of paintings you like, what kind of books are on the wall, so they can sell you stuff.
Yeah, Zuckerberg, that was just the pre-meeting, not the meeting. You can't record any of this.
I thought what was really cool was, TJ, when you were saying about the infrared sensors that give you a view of the real world through the headset.
Right.
And when you look at your phone, and you see the...
that freaked me out.
Do you not recommend that?
You want to know how much your phone is just like scanning your face? Like try to like unlock your phone or just like look at it, and it's infrared. So the little dot you can't see with your naked eye normally is it's like a flashing beacon. It's like, what's your face looking like? What are you looking at? What's going on? We're sending this to the NSA. It's just constantly.
It actually says all of that.
And you said, Bart, I think it'll show in the video, but when it's scanning the room and putting little pinpoints everywhere, it's doing that every millisecond.
Yeah.
And creating a new map.
Yeah, I think this video talked about how as you're moving through the mapped space as the user, it's capturing gyroscope data points off the movement of the headset to track what you're doing every millisecond. I wanted to play this much earlier because we were talking about how it maps the room, but I just want...
this is pretty cool. We'll throw it on the video too.
Yeah, we'll include it in the show after. But yeah, this is Hugo Barra. He's the VP of VR at Oculus.
Greatest title ever.
That's
VP
awesome.
of VR.
Yeah, so he's just a quick video of him explaining how the Oculus Insight is the software platform that actually maps the room that you're going to use the headset in.
Now, let's take a look at how Insight works. First of all, it uses the 4 wide-angle sensors on the headset to look for edges, corners, and pretty much any distinct feature in the environment. It then builds a 3-dimensional map that looks like a sparse point cloud. These are the green and blue dots that you see here. The system combines this map with gyroscope and accelerometer input and generates a very precise estimate of your head position every millisecond.
So anyway, you can see where this is headed, right? Because right now they're taking these sensors, and it's not dissimilar from the Google car that uses the LiDAR that's picking up 1 million data points a second. This is probably picking up a similar amount with 4 sensors. And the next generation of these have more sensors in them.
Well, what I'd like to see I'm trying to just skip ahead here. You have the cameras on your head, but what if you almost combine that with kind of the old tech around setting up stationary cameras around your house or room, and instead of closing off an area that's open for certain games that are like open world, have it for maps that are kind of auto-generated, have it match your living space based on whatever it is. So if you have a kitchen here and a hallway that goes to 2 other rooms, clear out the furniture, then you can have a map. If the game doesn't really matter if something's here or 7 feet over, have the map generate so that it matches your living space.
Well, you guys did this in Florida, right? Something similar to what you're describing.
Yes, but preset because the tech's not there yet. So it's like we're gonna build this room and then build the app so it matches the
You're
walls.
saying to adjust to every possible use.
Where this needs to go is to. So obviously, if you buy equipment in like a vase or anything that's permanently stationed with a micro camera on it that they can use and integrate, the more data it has, the better.
Right.
But if you did that, you could do things like do skin overlays to inanimate objects. You can see you're virtually sitting in this room when you watch Netflix for this thing. But if you could have the lazy boy chair that you have in your room, if you could have that overlaid, you would walk over to it and literally sit down in VR, and it's really there. So when we were at the Star Wars thing in Florida, you saw R2-D2, and he was moving around, and you reached down to touch him with your virtual hand, and you actually felt a shape. It was a robot, and all they did was overlay it. When you touched the door, you felt the door. When the door opened, the door was gone.
So you guys were doing a VR experience where the physical space you were in matched what was in the software realm?
Like 70%. So they did the walls, the doors, the like seats so you could sit down, and things like that, like R2 wouldn't move. Everything else was just fake, and then they would overlay it.
So picture a lot of like polygons that you could map into whatever you want in the software.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was maybe like 7 rooms that you move through.
Wow.
So this is a
It was
picture.
nuts.
I referred to the Netflix living room. This is your home theater. You could define it however you want, but let's just say that you need at least 1 chair and 1 table defined, and you do the overlay based on that, and I can actually go walk over and sit down in this and sit down and watch.
It's like an advertiser's dream, because imagine you can then go in and toggle through different lamps and then purchase the lamp.
So here's another picture of another virtual room where you can watch.
You're just so...
Purchase
you're
the
all about the
TV.
money, Rowan.
I know. Purchase a holiday.
Look at this.
Imagine-
The future of VR and immersion. I want to put an ad right there.
Imagine you're looking out the window there at the mountains, which we'll throw up on post-production. Imagine that's Peru.
Johnson
and imagine you could
Johnson.
just buy a ticket with a click of a button based on what you have set in virtual reality. Money.
So you can start to see the possibilities here are tremendous.
Yeah.
These micro cameras that are in this device here are very inexpensive. What's hard to do is the integration of that into a platform. So you're probably going to have to buy it from Facebook. I'm sure they'll be happy to sell it to you. They're the ones who own Oculus, by the way. If that wasn't clear to people. I think some people forget that. You buy these devices and you set them in your home, and they're going to track not only for the game, but they're going to harvest a lot of data, right? So today we were getting ready for work and doing stuff, and all of a sudden Alexa started answering questions about Bolivia. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Right? It must have heard some trigger word, and it started just talking to us, and I had to tell it to shut up.
Well, Roland, what were you saying before when you were talking to your buddy about was like a concert and then an ad showed up on Instagram?
Yeah, so WhatsApp are owned obviously by Facebook, which also owns Instagram and
Oculus.
And Oculus. And so I was chatting to my friend this morning on WhatsApp, and I was teasing him about how bad he is at playing tennis. And I said, you should get some tennis lessons. And he came back and said, yeah, just let me know when Novak is in town, Novak Djokovic. Time passed. About an hour and a half later, he sent me a message with a screenshot, and he said, this is getting way too specific. And what he sent me was an advert from one of the fashion companies, and it said, play with Novak. It was Lacoste. And it said, play with Novak. And it was a picture of Novak Djokovic with a tennis racket. And it was basically a competition to like be able to play tennis with Novak Djokovic and train with him. That is crazy.
Wow.
Because that is way too specific for that to be coincidence.
I've never gotten that ad, and I've never said that person's
It's
name.
to practice with Novak.
Yeah. Well, so you have to decide for yourself whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. He said he wanted that. They delivered it up.
And that's only from text inputs from WhatsApp. Imagine what they could do with inputs from mapping your entire room and the microphone that's catching everything. And you're putting it on and having a discussion with a significant other. Oh, yeah, we got it. We got to get a new TV. TV ads everywhere. I mean, it'll be personalized if you want that, but I'm just saying, you're handing it over.
So. The last thing I would like to talk. So the technology on this is rapidly improving. Billions of dollars is being thrown at this. So this is not. Yeah. People also need to be reminded that we did a show on esports and gaming. The gaming world.
These two will merge.
Dwarfs Hollywood.
Yeah.
And you're going to start to see this. Hollywood games start to merge together. You're going to see content developed for these platforms. If you're going to want to watch that content, you're going to have to buy these platforms or get access to it. But I would say I've played around with this and to get a sense of this is highly, highly immersive. It is. And even though I know that I'm sitting in a room at my house, I put this on, and within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I am gone. and you're gone when you take your headset off and realize, oh, I'm back here.
What is that instant feeling? Is it like, oh,
it's like waking up from a dream.
Okay.
That's the closest thing I can say. It's like waking up from a dream.
You need to get your bearings almost.
You do.
Yeah.
And if you have the full audio and visual, and you're comfortable, so there's no physical distractions outside of, and you're familiar enough with the hand controllers to have it be second nature, then you are really going to get immersed in these things, and it's going to be wild, and you're going to lose track of time, and you're going to lose track of sense and space. But I think when that happens, again, we can talk about the bad side. There's a good side to it, but it's also the implications of, do I need all this physical space anymore? Like Rohan, you live in Manhattan. You have a small place, and the amount of personal space you have is limited.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden now you just got to find a nice chair.
Yeah.
Sit down. And you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. And in that limited space, you can't have like a huge TV because it just stands out so much. So being able to like put that on and actually manipulate the size of your TV in this like virtual living room is awesome.
Turn your amazing view of Manhattan into a view of Chicago or something. If you want.
Yeah.
No, but even think about that. You pay a premium for the view you have in Manhattan.
Yeah.
What I think would be cool, just what you were saying, I was thinking about what you were saying, and then your view at your apartment, and thinking about augmented reality. If you could like have a scene from Spider-Man play out in augmented reality outside of your window. Stuff is happening on buildings.
King Kong on top of
just
the Empire State
Constant battle.
Yeah.
Who do you guys think the dark horse in all this is going to be?
Facebook.
Apple.
I mean, like a player maybe is not here,
Apple.
who's going to just come in like, and by the way, we're taking over and our stuff's the best.
Apple for sure.
That's an Apple move.
Apple.
I mean, the way you
they're
described
going,
it.
they're going into original content now, and like they're gonna come out with VR soon.
Yeah, they also have a lot of apps on the commerce side, like with IKEA. You can place furniture in a room, which isn't as cool as a lot of the games on some of the headset platforms, but you can use your phone to place furniture in a room. So they're using different applications of AR
they're
to
big on
capture
AR right
data.
now.
And
Just the design-led mentality they have. If the technology's there and they kind of bring their design skills to the fore, I think that's going to be formidable.
Yeah, and I will say on the software side, even though I'm appreciating the operating system of the Oculus Quest, the one thing it's missing is my iMessage and the podcast app and all the stuff from my Apple ecosystem that I like to have in my car and on my laptop and on my phone and on my iPad. And
they have an ecosystem.
And as many different rectangles as I can have it.
Oh my God.
And I would say Google as well in terms of the ecosystem.
Yeah.
They've been pretty silent on the VR game. I mean, they sell those cardboards, which you don't know what that is. It's a very cheap, I don't know, like $10 device. It's this cardboard. You slip your iPhone or
Android.
into there, and it splits the screen in half, and it's a very crude but
It
still
uses mirrors
kind
on a
of
phone screen to emulate the experience.
right, very crude experience for like
Yeah.
360. But they've been very silent on high tech VR stuff, and I think I was reading some report. They're saying that we're about like 7 years out for the tech we have now. Those goggles are showing to be small enough that they're almost like big Oakleys or like giant Speedo goggles, it's like that small on your face. And they already tried with the Google Glass. It was a failure, kind of ahead of its time for AR. I think they're going to steamroll back in a year or two with a VR device that's smaller, more compact, and I think they're waiting.
Also, Snapchat is another
Scary.
dark horse.
They have the
Snapchat?
glasses, right? Snapchat has
got-
glasses.
I forgot
about
they-
that.
Where do I place my bet that Snapchat will be irrelevant?
No.
Irrelevant.
Roland has money
way.
in Snapchat. We're sponsored by Snapchat.
Yeah.
They don't.
We're not.
We're not though, but we'd be willing.
If anyone's listening.
If
Mark,
Apple
we just promoted
sneezed,
two of your businesses,
if
Mark
Apple sneezed
Zuckerberg.
and their pile of money fell off the table, just a little bit of it, it would be bigger than Snapchat. Okay, so the players here are going to be Facebook, Google, and Apple,
Yeah.
and everyone else is irrelevant because it has to do with how much money you're going to go spend.
Even HTC, because they don't have the broader
HTC cannot
ecosystem.
compete. They're
Yeah.
going to get bought by somebody.
Right.
So this is the same with cloud computing. They're
Yeah.
putting in. Apple could dump $10 billion into this and just say we own it. And what
more.
Bart just said, that would be the one thing I would want to be able to have my Apple ecosystem already in there
Yeah.
Right.
to go driving this stuff. And if you do that, then I can sit there and I can work remotely. I can do a whole bunch of other things. But when it becomes a virtual and it divorces me from the other thing, I have that yoke coming back to get out of it. But if I have those things with me in there, Apple's going to crack that. I think Google's going to do that as well. The one I would throw in as a fourth player is Microsoft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they
Cloud.
they got married to this HoloLens platform
Yeah.
that's not quite there. It's just
It's
not,
only like 80 pounds.
yeah. Microsoft. I mean, but the thing is, Microsoft also has an ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's not as probably robust as the. I think Apple owns the ecosystem in terms of the pinnacle of what those are. But it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. When you buy this stuff, it is not an investment; it is an expense because very quickly it'll be obsolete.
Same thing with phones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people,
Yeah.
a lot of people buy
These
the phone
are-
every year.
Buy them and have fun with them for a year, and then
Yeah, you bought the HTC Vive a month ago, and then you bought the Oculus Quest.
No. 2 years ago, and then
We
set it up
a month
finally
ago.
a month ago.
Oh,
And then he's like,
okay.
oh, I'll go with a new one.
And it's a drastic improvement.
well, look, it's not. You buy the HTC Vive, then there's like another
Yeah.
$2,500 of expense to get a gaming laptop and with all the stuff.
Yeah.
We're doing because we want to learn about this stuff, but I'm just saying all this stuff is converging down into smaller and smaller devices, and then the real investments on the experience side. So it's
Yeah.
gonna be very interesting to see Apple jump into this, Google jump into this, and really what I think is going to I really want to see open platforms win, so that you can pick the best one and not lose your other experiences because it's a closed API.
Yeah.
Right? I want to see open platforms so I can get my Apple stuff no matter who's doing it. Right? So
This is so Microsoft's like making a play to be the developer platform.
Yeah, what I was kind of going for here is that I think HoloLens was kind of one of the early augmented reality platforms, and they had a lot of marketing content that I think has oversold how capable the headset is. But it seems like if you look at a lot of the offerings around mixed reality that are available through Azure, Microsoft is kind of positioning itself to be a huge player in VR and AR, but more on the cloud services and integration and collaboration sort of side, and maybe not focusing so much on hardware,
software.
platform.
Or be like or just the back operating system.
Yeah.
They were the Windows backbone for so many different things.
I
Why
think
not be the backbone
original
for this?
Yeah, I think the original Rift is, and the
Oh,
Quest.
it's Windows based?
I think
Or
I think it
Microsoft?
was Microsoft, and then the Quest was a lightweight shift to the Snapdragon, the Android
Yeah.
platform. I think.
So the last thing, and then we'll end because we're at the end of our time here. Bart, pull up the Magic Leap website. Now we had looked at Magic Leap. They received an ungodly amount of money early on. Now they're a company based outside in the Everglades down in.
This is AR, by the way.
This is AR, but this is a small company down by Palm Beach,
Very
Fort Lauderdale area.
secretive company.
Very secretive, but they received well over $500 million in seed money from a lot of people, from Lucas Development. A lot of big money went into this.
NBA is an early partner.
So you can see the headset here is starting to look a little bit more comfortable. I mean, it's a little more open. You're looking through things. It's more like glasses as opposed to over the ear headphones. It's
Wow.
so it's very different. It's quite getting there. It's not cheap. These, you can see the price points here are $3,000 for a platform. Not ready for prime time. This is for developers for the most part. But these price points will all come down. This is another player. These guys will get bought by somebody if their technology works. But you can see lots of money going into this. If you haven't played around with it, these are very immersive experiences. You should. If you
I forgot to talk about that. I can't stress enough. I showed it to. I went on vacation for a week about a week ago, and I can't tell you how many times I was really raving about this Quest I just got from Oculus, and getting reactions like, "Yeah, I'll try that later," and then cousin would try it, and he'd be like, I mean, I kind of wrote you off when you said that, but like, oh my God. And just he couldn't find the words. He was blown away by it. You quickly accept the reality that's presented to you.
Yeah.
I was playing like a game where you're moving around and shooting things. And there's a moment to get to the next level, you have to walk off a ledge and fall like 40 stories. And when I was doing it, and it was very crude graphics, I hesitated for maybe 5 or 6 seconds to like brace myself, even though I'm walking on hardwood floor in my living room.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. And you step off and you feel it, your head freaks out. Like, what are you doing? Preserve yourself.
Yeah.
All that stuff kicks in.
That reminds me of, we did a VR team building event with one of our clients, and there was a part of the experience where you had to walk across a very thin software-defined bridge, and you knew you were in this just empty room on a flat ground, but I found myself kind of tiptoeing over this bridge that with the abyss beneath it.
You get nauseous.
Legitimately like frightened of falling. It's very, very, very weird how realistic
and we're
it is.
only just beginning.
Yeah.
Well, I remember that, and you did tiptoe as if you were going to really fall. I did one of those VR roller coasters, and I had to sit down because I thought I was going to fall over. And what was interesting is it was when it gets crazy, like loopy loops, you get so desensitized that it doesn't bother you. It's the subtle stuff where you're swaying around. That's when you almost want to fall over because you really start. But again, these are immersive experiences. If you don't have one of these things, you got to spend a few $100s to check them out. Find somebody who has one, check it out,
and leave some comments. Let us know
people
what
don't
you
even think twice about spending a couple $1,000s on a nice flat screen TV. This is going to be the new flat screen TVs of the future. It's going to give you more than just a flat screen. It's going to open up your door. It's going to replace a lot of different things in your life and augment, hopefully positively, the things that you can do through digital technologies. So,
Cool.
Hoorah.
great. Thanks, guys. I'll
Thanks.
See ya.
Hey, thanks for listening to Pardon the Disruption. We'd like you to subscribe to our podcast if you like it. You can find us on most of the platforms where you get your podcast from, whether that be iTunes or YouTube or whatever you're on. We also want some feedback. Which shows do you want us to cover? What do you like? What do you not like? So that we can do this. We're doing this for you. We're not doing this for anything else. So please subscribe and give us some feedback. Thank you very much.